When the richest man alive thought he had finally secured his perfect love story, whispers began echoing through the glass towers of Amazon, whispers that carried the weight of betrayal. Jeff Bezos, a man who built an empire on discipline, control, and precision, believed his new life with Lauren Sanchez marked the beginning of balance and peace. But behind the golden sunsets of Maui and the extravagant vows exchanged on a billionaire's cliffside wedding, small cracks were already forming, cracks sharp enough to cut through the strongest empire. Insiders claim Lauren's wandering gaze, and long conversations with a powerful Amazon executive weren't just harmless gestures. They were signals of something far more dangerous, an alleged connection that threatened to unravel both a marriage and the foundation of Bezos's legacy. And when a security guard stumbled upon blurry footage buried deep within Amazon's servers, the line between loyalty and betrayal blurred overnight. Was this the beginning of Bezos's downfall, or just another test of his iron grip on power? One thing was certain. In a world where fortunes shift with a single headline, even the most powerful man on earth wasn't safe from the kind of betrayal money can't control. Jeff Bezos has always prided himself on discipline, long before he became the face of unshakable wealth and power. He built his empire with a strict code: control your time, control your future. After stepping away from the daily grind of Amazon's leadership, Bezos told reporters he was finally prioritizing something simple yet sacred: sleep. 8 full hours a night. A rigid schedule that started at dawn, meditation, and workouts at 5 in the morning. To him, balance wasn't just a lifestyle choice, it was a calculated formula for sustaining the kind of vision that once transformed an online bookstore into a trillion-dollar empire. He spoke about this chapter of his life as though he had cracked the code to happiness: discipline, rest, reflection. Bezos painted a picture of peace, a man who had conquered chaos and finally learned to live on his own terms. His daily routine became a symbol of this newfound control. Carefully measured, carefully executed, and carefully shared with the world. But here lies the irony. The same man who could command markets with a single decision, who could reshape entire industries with his innovations, was about to discover that some battles can't be scheduled or calculated. Balance, as he imagined it, was slipping away in the most unexpected way. While Bezos was meditating at sunrise and clocking in his precious hours of rest, forces outside his control were quietly moving into position. What he didn't know was that the perfect system he believed in, the order, the routine, the discipline, was fragile when confronted with human emotion. Love, loyalty, betrayal. These were variables no spreadsheet could predict. And as Bezos focused on creating harmony in his private world, small tensions in his personal life were beginning to grow. The world saw a billionaire living in total control, but behind the scenes, something far more unpredictable was brewing. But as Bezos chased peace, cracks were already forming in the background. The wedding in Maui was nothing short of a billionaire's dream. Against the backdrop of golden sunsets and crashing waves, Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez exchanged vows in what the media quickly crowned the wedding of the decade. A private, beachfront estate worth millions was transformed into a scene pulled straight from a Hollywood fantasy. Orchids from Europe, roses from English gardens, and a canopy of flowers stretching endlessly across the aisle. Guests dined on candlelit Venetian glass tables while live performances carried the celebration into the early hours of the morning. Vintage champagne flowed as effortlessly as the billions behind it, and every camera lens told the same story: power, love, and a fairy tale too perfect to break. The guest list alone cemented the event as legendary. Tech titans, Hollywood elites, political power players, and even members of royal families were there to witness Bezos's new beginning. Oprah Winfrey arrived with a priceless gift, Leonardo DiCaprio jetted in for the occasion, and whispers of envy spread across social media as photos of Lauren's $450,000 Valentino gown surfaced online. To the outside world, it was the ultimate symbol of triumph, a man who had conquered business now conquering love. But behind the glitter and glamour, not everything sparkled as it seemed. Insiders later recalled subtle signs that painted a different picture. Lauren's gaze lingering a little too long on certain conversations. Her phone lighting up more often than expected during the ceremony. Nervous laughter in moments when eyes should have been only on her husband. At the time, these quirks seemed like nothing more than bridal jitters. But in hindsight, those tiny cracks in the flawless facade raised questions that couldn't be ignored, and those little details would later mean far more than anyone realized. The fairy tale glow of Maui hadn't even faded before the first whispers began to spread. At the center of it all was a man insiders only referred to as M. He wasn't just any Amazon executive. M was one of the most powerful figures in Bezos's empire, a man known for his razor-sharp business instincts, his charisma, and his uncanny ability to hold a room's attention. Colleagues described him as both feared and admired, the kind of executive who could make or break billion-dollar deals with a single phone call. Tension between Bezos and Lauren allegedly boiled over just weeks later. Sources close to the couple claimed a heated argument erupted behind closed doors, centering on money and control. Bezos, ever the strategist, was reportedly frustrated by Lauren's growing influence in both his personal and professional circles. Lauren, on the other hand, wanted more autonomy, more say in decisions that touched the Amazon world. That fight set the stage for what happened next. Whispered accounts from Amazon's Seattle headquarters painted an even more unsettling picture. Employees noticed Lauren slipping into private lounges with M, where conversations stretched far longer than casual chats should. Witnesses described moments of laughter echoing from closed doors, hands brushing in passing, and eye contact that seemed to hold secrets no one dared to name. While most dismissed it as harmless chemistry at first, the frequency of their meetings and the ease with which they seemed to connect did not go unnoticed, but whispers became dangerous once digital evidence surfaced. It started with a late-night system check. Tom Anderson, a senior security engineer at Amazon, was combing through routine surveillance logs when he stumbled across something that stopped him cold. The footage was grainy, shot from an awkward angle near a restricted lounge inside the Seattle headquarters. At first glance, it looked like nothing. Two figures lingering close together in the corner of the frame. But as Tom slowed it down, enhanced the feed, and zoomed in, the outlines became clearer. Lauren and M. What caught everyone's attention wasn't just their proximity, but the fleeting moment when their heads tilted toward each other. In the fuzzy pixels, it looked less like casual conversation and more like a kiss. It wasn't crisp enough to be definitive, but it was damning enough to ignite debate at the highest levels of Amazon. Inside the glass walls of power, executives whispered in hushed tones. Some defended Lauren, insisting the footage could easily be misinterpreted. Maybe just a moment of emotional support, nothing more. Others weren't so forgiving, seeing it as undeniable evidence of betrayal, both personal and corporate. The footage quickly moved beyond a technical anomaly into a moral question. Was the richest man in the world being played in his own kingdom? The fallout shook Amazon's inner circle, and Bezos himself. The leaked footage spread through Bezos's private world like wildfire, igniting panic and paranoia. Inside his trusted circle, voices grew urgent. Marcus Stein, a longtime friend who had weathered Bezos's highs and lows, didn't mince words. "Jeff, you have to cut ties before this infects everything you've built," he allegedly warned, pushing him to protect the empire first and his heart second. But Bezos wasn't the calculating mogul the public expected him to be in that moment. Instead of lashing out at Lauren, he turned inward. Sources close to him described a man spiraling into self-doubt, replaying decisions, questioning whether his obsession with control had driven her away. Was this betrayal, or was he somehow to blame? For someone who once ruled every boardroom, the vulnerability was startling. Behind the scenes, billionaire advisors were quietly pulled into the storm. Bill Gates, who had faced his own marital scandals, cautioned Bezos to tread carefully and preserve dignity above all else. Warren Buffett, ever the strategist, urged a calm, deliberate approach, damage control, not destruction. To them, this wasn't just about love, it was about legacy, reputation, and the billions tethered to Bezos's name. But just when it seemed Bezos would lose everything, the truth took a shocking turn. Anderson couldn't shake the unease. Something about the footage felt off, too perfectly timed, too conveniently damning. So he dug deeper into the archives, cross-checking access logs, digital fingerprints, and metadata. That's when the truth cracked open. The footage had been deliberately flagged and circulated by none other than Amazon's own VP of Corporate Affairs, a man with everything to gain from destabilizing Bezos's personal life and influence. The more Anderson uncovered, the clearer the scheme became. Internal emails revealed a campaign of manipulation, leaks planted in gossip columns, whispers seeded among employees, and selective edits designed to paint Lauren as unfaithful. In reality, the infamous kiss was nothing more than a moment, piece of comfort. Lauren leaning on M after a tense confrontation with Bezos earlier that day. The embrace had been twisted into betrayal by those who stood to profit from Bezos's humiliation. When the truth surfaced, the fallout was swift. The VP was exposed, stripped of his title, and thrust into a legal storm of lawsuits and investigations. What had looked like the undoing of Bezos's marriage and empire turned out to be a carefully orchestrated sabotage from within his own ranks. And from betrayal came a lesson Bezos never expected. When the smoke cleared, Bezos chose a path few expected. Instead of ending things, he forgave Lauren. The scandal had shaken them both, but in its ashes came something rare in billionaire circles: genuine vulnerability. Insiders say their relationship was rebuilt on late-night conversations, clearer boundaries, and a commitment to communicate rather than assume. What once looked like a crumbling foundation began to feel stronger than before. M. too walked away vindicated. His professionalism under fire not only salvaged his reputation but elevated it. Rather than being cast out, he was promoted. His loyalty to Bezos and Amazon recognized in the most public way possible. What was nearly the end of his career became the defining chapter of his rise. And then there was Tom Anderson, the quiet engineer whose curiosity had saved the empire from implosion. Bezos rewarded him with a leadership role in Amazon's newly fortified ethics and security division, ensuring manipulation of this scale could never slip through again. The empire stood stronger and smarter, but the biggest shift wasn't corporate. It was personal. In the end, Bezos realized the lesson was never about control at all. Power, in its rawest form, isn't measured by wealth, empires, or even discipline. It's measured by trust. His obsession with balance, strict routines, and absolute control had nearly blinded him to the simplest truth. Sometimes the greatest risks don't come from rivals or markets, but from the people whispering in the shadows. The irony was impossible to ignore. The man who built Amazon on systems and order had almost lost everything to chaos he couldn't quantify. What saved him wasn't data or algorithms, but the courage to question the narrative and see through manipulation. And that's the part that lingers. Because even billionaires with all their power and protection can still be pawns in games fueled by jealousy and hidden agendas. The difference lies in whether they find the courage to uncover the truth before it's too late.